You've tuned into Stranger Than Fiction News, broadcasting live from the dark side of the planet. The Dow Jones has plummeted nearly 900 points, and it's being floated right now by the crash protection scheme put in place by this administration. Right now, the Dow Jones has plummeted nearly 900 points, and it's being floated right now by the crash. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been an echo in the Matrix. We're broadcasting live on the screw tube, and right now the markets are finally waking up to this bioweapon that is rampaging around the world, and we're learning more and more information about how deadly this virus is, ladies and gentlemen, as well as some of its stealthy characteristics, if you will. And let's see if we can get into something that's mind-blowing, to say the least. Wuhan to quarantine all cured coronavirus patients for 14 days after people are testing positive again. And if you read the article, not only are they testing positive, they're able to infect others after they've been cured. Let that sink in for a second. First of all, they can't even cure the common cold, let alone the Wuhan supervirus. And this thing is so stealthy, able to leap through quarantines and the like, and also able to reinfect people, before symptoms show up and long after symptoms go away, if they ever go away. We're getting reports that this thing will reinfect like herpes. People will relapse into, the cold sores, if you will, with the Wuhan supervirus. This thing will never go away. Carriers of this virus will be infected for life, and the entire planet is gearing up to be infected. We're getting reports that the R0 or the R0 number, the infectious rate for this virus, is above 4. This is a magnitude 4 outbreak. And unless you're a virologist, you can't really appreciate what that means, but you're going to appreciate it soon enough. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to start looking like these sci-fi movies out there, the third wave, or the fifth wave, we should say, or, Resident Evil, or I Am Legend, if you will. And we've been telling people for quite some time to prepare. You have days, not weeks, to get your affairs in order. All your guns, all your ammo, everything you're going to need to fight back. And of course, look, they're going to be coming after everyone and anyone that's awake out there, potentially. What we're learning about this outbreak is that it was pre-planned. We're getting reports of secret documents circulating, and you can roll your eyes at this, if you want to, but just wait. We're getting reports of secret documents floating around out there, kind of like Edward Snowden style, detailing exactly this scenario in the summer of 2019, ladies and gentlemen. And, there's a lot of questions right now as far as what is really going on. And we're going to be getting into that as soon as we can fixate the audio guy. We got an audio guy that's troublesome as well. But this project, Zyphr, which kind of makes you think of Cypher in the Matrix. Who was Cypher in the Matrix? That was the guy that wanted to go back. He had enough, ladies and gentlemen. And he was going to tank the whole ship to bring everybody back into the Matrix so that he could get back into the Matrix. And, this Zyphr project that was detailed last summer was talking about a flu-like pandemic that would kill millions of Americans, and that people would be getting scooped up with vans. And, when we started hearing, the video roll out, this is according to David Goldberg, and I'm not sure how many people have, seen that video. But at first, it's almost laughable. You try to look up who this guy is. Supposedly, he was killed off, et cetera, et cetera. There's no records of his obit. There's no records that the guy even exists at all. But it's clearly published in the summer of 2019. And this guy claims, that he's got the documents right? And, you know, this might be like some kind of wild coincidence, but you really can't overlook anything at this stage as far as what might be going on, because they've let these planes in. They've done everything they could to make this thing blow up. And it's only going to get worse. This is just the beginning. Every day it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. It never gets better. And with this information that, you know, people aren't ever going to recover from this virus, not fully anyways, you know, there's a lot to think about here. And so with this project Zyphr, which seems to be confirmed and is, you know, floating around the establishment, it would suggest that all of the things that we're going to see is planned by this administration, like another 9/11. Remember, in 9/11, the planes were 20 miles out, the planes were 10 miles out. Do the orders still stand? Of course the orders still stand, ladies and gentlemen. And they've done everything they could to let, you know, this outbreak happen. They supplied so few tests out there to airports, to cities, to hospitals. And the tests that they did send out were faulty. And so how can there be an outbreak if they can't actually test anyone? That's the plan, right? So that this thing would basically infect everyone, and then they're going to come out with their medical martial law. And they're also forecasting in these documents. Pay attention to the mark of the beast on these people's foreheads, ladies and gentlemen. But in these documents, they're detailing massive blackouts, a 2-day nationwide blackout, as well as localized blackouts for, you know, kind of clean sweep operations. They're going to be coming after targeted individuals. They're going to be coming after people during these blackouts. They're going to say, oh, this one's infected. Nobody's going to come help you, ladies and gentlemen. And this is all part of the New World Order, Georgia Guidestone's Agenda 21 program. You might have thought you had years. Think again. It's rolling out right now. They've jumped the gun. They know that their grip on power is slipping. People are waking up. They're not tuning into, you know, the Emmys or the Grammys anymore. You know, they can see these actors for what they are. And you've known that they've been poisoning your water, your food, your air. They've been rolling out the death towers. You know these people are out to get you. Why would this be any different when they're just letting all the planes in? They're letting everybody in. They're not trying to stop it, right? They're just playing dumb, like, oh, you know, we're screening. We got enhanced screening. When people are spreading this virus without symptoms, this was known like day 2, day 3 of the outbreak, and they didn't act accordingly. The tests that they sent out, their reagents, you know, weren't set up to pick up this virus. And so there was just no way they could stop it with what they deployed on purpose, part of the plan. And you have to remember, and this is the kicker, I think this is what should really seal the deal for everybody here, is that this administration has brought in so many people from the 9/11 administration, you know, Bolton, Kavanaugh, just to name a few, plus, you know, Giuliani, you know, the mayor of 9/11 that was at the emergency bunker at Building 7 and then took off, and you know the rest of the story. But you had all the key actors of 9/11 pretty much, you know, reunited in this administration, and they're doing it again. That's why it's important to arrest serial killers out there, because they're going to strike again, like Ted Bundy or Charlie Manson. And what you got right now at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, for the most part, is a bunch of Charlie Manson groupies in it together, plotting your demise. And this is very problematic. Not only that, but they've got a track record of using, you know, weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, for a pretext of an invasion in Syria. There was obvious Gladio B events going on with Iran. Even the killing of this ISIS person, you know, it just screamed like, you know, misinformation. They couldn't even confirm what the president was saying about the guy screaming and whimpering and all of that. Remember that screaming and whimpering? He was screaming, he was whimpering, and none of the generals knew how he got that information. You know, he's a phony. Unfortunately, he's a phony, ladies and gentlemen. And he's got a hidden agenda, and that agenda is letting Hillary go, letting all these people go, and basically unleashing the virus. And that's what this cult of death is all about. It's about killing people unfortunately. And, you know, you can't understand the mind of a serial killer. You can't understand the minds of people that would sacrifice children and, you know, rape children and the like. Everything that we've discovered in the WikiLeaks, everything that we've discovered in the Podesta files, up to and including Epstein, which they whacked, right? They whacked Epstein. Why do you think they whacked Epstein, ladies and gentlemen? And how many connections to Epstein did this administration have? I mean, they were blatantly like hiring the lawyers, Epstein's lawyers, for the impeachment thing. They had, you know, the prosecutor that let Epstein go as Secretary of Labor. You know, talk about a cushy job with, you know, a golden parachute. And so all the red flags are there. These flags are, you know, more red than the MAGA hats you see people wearing, you know, at the rallies. And all of these rallies that they're having are super spreader events, guaranteed on purpose. You know, he's up there on stage like, breathe it in, bitches, breathe in the virus, you know. And we're getting, you know, all sorts of reports of, you know, the infection spreading. Prime Minister of Slovakia infected, which means, you know, Slovakia is like Czechoslovakia, you know, middle, central Europe. I mean, that's even further north than Italy. And if their prime minister got it right in the, you know, middle of Europe, then everybody on that continent must be infected. They're still hiding the numbers. It's hiding behind the flu. You know, there's tens of thousands of people that died due to flu induced pneumonia, if you will. And so, you know, they're not going to pick up, you know, the initial cases right away. And when they do pick it up, it's too late. They've contaminated the entire hospital, the staff, the nurses, the doctors. Everybody's gone. This virus is meant to destroy infrastructure, to destroy cities, to shut everybody down. And now the stock market is finally, you know, getting the picture. And had, you know, people acted accordingly day one, had they not been censoring information like they usually do, people might have been more prepared. But of course, you know, the socialist media platforms, the media giants on television, and the politicians have been working together for the most part, with some exceptions, but for the most part, they've been working together to, you know, kind of downplay this crisis and to set everybody up for the mass extermination. You know, you cannot forgive, you know, something of that magnitude. They're trying to genocide everybody, and it's about time that people wake up. And we know that by watching the videos from China, we can see what's going to happen in the future in America. They're going to shut down cities. They're going to quarantine your block. They're going to come in and say that your building has been infected. They're going to bring in the buses, and they're going to unload people into camps, you know, set up with mobile crematoriums and the like. And so we're telling people to prepare for the last stand. If it doesn't go there, it doesn't go there, but it looks like it's going to go there. We covered a couple days ago in the video archives the Kobe Bryant murder. And in fact, what we're learning about the Kobe Bryant murder is that they had done a cartoon, believe it or not, predicting the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash. And they titled that episode End of Days, End of the World. You got to check that out. That means that, you know, they're trying to own this virus. They want to tell their cult members that, you know, they're the ones running this extermination program. And since all of these cult members are basically like, you know, a Jonestown cult, they're more than happy to jump off the cliff like a bunch of lemmings, and they want to take everybody with them. And if they don't feel like they can take everybody with them, it's going to get ugly. And it has to get ugly if you want to survive. So when the goon squad comes to your neighborhood, you're going to have a very difficult decision to make. Are you going to let them proceed to liquidate, or are you going to take these goon squads out? And, you know, it'll be like that scene in the movie The Matrix when Neo gets that phone, you know, delivered just before the agents arrive. And Neo's like, no, this can't be. This can't be. Oh, but it is. Oh, but it is. And I want you to remember these videos when the goon squads come to your neighborhood and you've got a decision to make. You're going to go out like a bitch, or are you going to open fire? And, you know, the more people that open fire, the better it's going to be, because, you know, these goon squads have got to go. as well as the goons that sent these goon squads. And for the most part, they're all going to be libtard, New World Order cult members, you know, demons in disguise. You have to remember something very important. I want you to write this down. Every army uses camouflage. Every army uses counterintelligence. Every army uses disinformation. And this army of darkness that we're up against, this legion that the Bible talks about, is demonic in nature. You can see the mark of the beast on their foreheads. It's a cult of death. Everything they promote is death. And most of these people you see are clones, just empty shells, vessels for the demons. But you got operators like this guy. And look at all these people in, you know, behind him in Washington, D.C. during this hearing. They've all got the devil horns. This is the mark of the beast that you should be on the lookout for. And these people are everywhere. It's not your imagination. And, you know, you can tell them by their fruits. And when you start talking to them about vaccines, fluoride, death towers, and the like, you always get the same response from these people. They play stupid. Why? Because every army uses camouflage. They can't go out there and just run around with, you know, with some kind of banner that says that they're cult members, that they're part of that Anton LaVey, you know, cult. But that's what they are. They've sold their souls to the devil. And that is the essence of this beast system. And for the first time in 2,000 years, we can see what this beast system looks like. We can see, you know, the mark of the beast on every product that we buy, this UPC barcode. They want to chip everyone. They want to connect you to the matrix, quite literally, with their Elon Musk brain chip. These people are out to get you, plotting your demise. They've got a plan. What's your plan? They've just unleashed a weaponized super virus that's going to infect the entire world and wipe out tens, if not hundreds of millions of people. It's going to make, you know, World War II look like an appetizer. We are talking about, you know, astronomical numbers of mass death, not to mention the tyranny that they're going to usher in the vacuum, in the panic. And everybody needs to realize that this is more of the same. This is the New World Order trying to, you know, exterminate. Just like it says on the Georgia Guidestones. It's a cult of death. It's a big club, and you don't want to be in it. These people are going to hell, ladies and gentlemen. And hell is very real. And these demons are very real. And, you know, that's why it's important that you continue to wear the armor as it's described in Ephesians 6:13. And the helmet of salvation is hope, ladies and gentlemen. Always keep hope. Always know that it's going to be David versus Goliath out there. But instead of a slingshot, you can have an automatic rifle if you're in America. If you're in one of these disarmed states, expect the worst. You're going to have to get a little more tribal. You know, we recommend watching the movie Fortress, like, you know, from Australia. Who remembers that movie? We're not going to go there. But essentially, you're going to want to prepare. And, you know, prepare your ambushes, prepare your choke points, get your wingmen, you know, on deck. You know, start looking into radio jammers or spark gap radios. Go watch a video on how to make a spark gap radio. That'll block everything. Flip that jammer on and open fire. They cannot call for help. They cannot call for backup, ladies and gentlemen, if you are waiting for them. But if you just go out like a sheeple, then you're going to go out like a sheeple. You're going to find out, you know, what those showers were all about in, you know, back in World War II. And just think about that concept for a second. You know, they bring people into the showers and they're like, hey, you're just going to get cleaned, you know? And people are like, yeah, okay. Now, what's the advantage of doing it like that? Well, there's no resistance. People aren't fighting back. They're not like, no, don't take me, right? They're like, please, yes, anything you say, right? If they get wind that they're going to be exterminated, they're going to panic and they're going to run for the door. That's what they don't want. They want you in your building so they can seal those buildings shut and bury you alive. Pay attention to this video. They're like reading out loud, your building has been condemned. Oh, we're going to have to go back to it. And you can see the people in there like, you know, what do we do now? And if you don't have the gear, if you don't have, you know, the goods to basically, you know, survive this coming apocalypse, if you will, then you're going to go out like the sheeple. We recommend, getting as much stuff as you can. We fully expect quarantines, lockdowns for up to 90 days. But getting something for at least a month for starters will give you a huge advantage over all of the other sheeple. Most of the sheeple are going to die out in about, 2 weeks to 30 days, from starvation or some other thing. And so if you can, hold out beyond that, you'll be dealing with, basically a whole different ball field. So prepare for, the reemergence. Prepare to go into your ark and ride this storm out. You can't help the sheeple even if you wanted to. It's just like talking to them about, 5G or vaccines. They're in a trance. They can't hear you. They've been hypnotized by the television, by the public school indoctrination. They're never going to get it. You can't save them. Don't sit there and get exposed and breathe in their air. Become a germaphobe. Get your supplies. Save who you can. If you know truthers out there, show them these videos. Now, as far as, this project Zyphr, there isn't a whole lot of information to go on. It seems like, just some kind of pseudonym. David Goldberg, killed, bring attention to the story. And the only thing that really kind of makes a whole lot of sense is, what they're describing, which is a flu-like virus that's so deadly it's going to kill hundreds of millions of people. And that, they're going to come around, with vans and just start extracting people. This basically described the videos that we were seeing from China day one of the lockdown to the T. And, that was posted months before this actually went down in August of 2019. So it got our attention. Is it just a coincidence or is there something there? They're talking about rolling blackouts. They're talking about Trump being on board. They're talking about, this administration orchestrating this. And what we're seeing, from, various sources is that we've got a full Five Eyes collaboration. If you don't know what Five Eyes is, it's like all the English-speaking countries and their intelligence programs. Basically, at some level being involved, as well as China. So that gives them Five Eyes plus one, that's 6. So that's essentially what we're looking at. Now, how involved is, every country, every establishment, at what level is hard to say. But this originated as a top secret U.S. document, and it was put out by this administration. And the goal here is to exterminate. And we've talked about the track record. We've talked about, how this administration has used weapons of mass destruction as pretext for Gladio B events before. Everybody remembers the Kurdish genocide. That quickly, came and went in the news. You don't want to set a precedent. You have a president that likes genocide, because then when this thing rolls around, you might be asking questions that you shouldn't be asking. And so we're saying to everybody, prepare. And especially with the Kobe Bryant thing, it really looks like this is another 9/11 happening before our very eyes. Like, all of the worst catastrophes in the past couple decades rolled together. Fukushima, Chernobyl, 9/11, all packed into one. Mass extermination, and look, what can you say other than prepare and know who to blame? Know who to blame, because these people are going to come out like, oh, we did everything we could. We sent out the faulty tests. We let all the planes in. We did everything we could. We let Hillary go. We did absolutely everything we could to fuck up this country, pardon the language. And now we're here to save you just in time for the elections. You know what I mean? And so what you going to do? What are you going to do out there? What can be done at this stage as they roll out more death towers and they start collecting people with the goon squads? And we're going to try and find some more appropriate video to shock you with. And the videos are shocking. And it's important that people understand what's going on, because this is like a window into the future. And basically, we're just starting the China syndrome right now. We're like 1 month behind them, according to the current situation. Italy is breaking out, melting down, South Korea, Japan. How do you think all of these cases got to Japan in the first place? Do you think people from China walked to Japan? They took a plane, ladies and gentlemen. They took a plane, and, there's probably...
It's much easier for me to be nice because I'm basically a nice person, I hope. It's much easier, Jim, for me to be nice than it is for me to be the way I have to be. Much easier. It's much easier for me to be nice because I'm basically a nice person, I hope. It's much easier, Jim, for me to be nice than it is for me to be.
Did you hear how he said that? I mean, we got to pump up the volume on that one. But he's like, it's much easier for me to be nice. Otherwise, I just got to get... And it's just the way he said it, man. I mean, he's a freaky piece of work from New York, let me tell you. And what we're discovering about that guy is, his penthouse is actually on the 66th floor, related to 666 Fifth Avenue. He's going to have a 6 of everything in his closet, like OCD style. And if you think this guy isn't out to get you, go ask the Kurds. Go ask Julian Assange. I mean, at the beginning of the election, he was like, oh, WikiLeaks, WikiLeaks. Every other word was like WikiLeaks. And then as soon as he could, I mean, he just stabbed that fucker in the back, Julian Assange. And then he stabbed Michael Flynn in the back. Boom. And, Roger Stone, boom. Manafort, boom. He just got rid of everybody. This fucker's a disease, ladies and gentlemen. And he's out there right now at the Hindu capital, pagan capital of the world, celebrating his fucking triumph to their, whatever religion. These people have got to go, ladies and gentlemen. And, this situation is only going to get worse. This is just the beginning. But as long as people can, plant the seeds of what is actually going on here, so that by the time, we get to the end of the tunnel of this outbreak, which could be a year or 2 years from now, people will be able to do something instead of just, get the brain chip. Because at the end of it, they're going to roll out a vaccine and they're going to say, well, we need to make sure that you got your chip to prove that you got your vaccine. And everything's going to go cashless because, this virus stays on the money for 9 to 28 days. It's going to be on the mail. It's going to be on your Amazon. It's going to be, you might be a germaphobe and you might do everything right, wear the mask, the gloves, disinfect, etc., etc. And then you just get a package from Amazon. You're like, oh, yeah, finally my headsets have arrived or whatever. Boom, contaminated. Everybody's going to get contaminated from this virus. Now, we recommend low dose, all right? It's, if you look at disease management, and there's quite a bit of information, on things like HIV out there. And it's all about virus load. And just because you get contaminated doesn't mean you can get recontaminated and it's no big deal. And, the dose that you get makes a huge difference. A low dose versus a huge dose is a difference between cold-like symptoms and the ICU. And so the last thing you want to do is just sit in a room with somebody that's infected. And, this is wiping out entire homes full of people, because once one person gets infected, then everybody gets infected. They're all breathing in the same air. The viral load just goes through the roof, and they all go ICU. And we've seen a lot of cases like that. And so you really got to think about, virus load, airflow. You got to think about, bringing down the virus count everywhere you can. And we'll see if we can bring up some videos of, probably not, but of them spraying everything down, with their trucks. They're trying to bring down the community virus load. And that's really the trick to beating this outbreak in the long term, is basically, to have people self-isolate, disinfect everything, and just, stop it in its tracks, which is something they probably should have done day one. And we knew this was bad news as soon as this hit the headlines, because they were saying at the height of the epidemic, that, thousands of people, 20,000 people were flying into America per day for a week. And so with numbers like that, there's just no way that this isn't going to hit, hardcore. And it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. And we're on schedule. It's happening. It's coming. They're hiding the numbers for the time being, but it's about to erupt. And so we advise, take your kids out of school, start preparing, tell your job you're going on vacation, take your paid vacation now if you can, and just see what happens over the next 2 weeks. But start preparing right now. This is an emergency. This is something that nobody's ever seen before in world history, in human history, as far as we can tell. Maybe humanity has been reset before, but we'll leave that for a different broadcast. We also recommend everybody check out our video archives. Oh, the video guy's on vacation. He must have been listening to our broadcast. He's like, I'm on vacation, buddy. But everybody should check out our video archives. Check out the series, The Dark Matrix. If you're wondering what this is, I mean, this is the drop dead virus, the super virus that's coming to a town near you. People just drop dead and start twitching. Mass arrests, goon squads everywhere. It's going to be a nightmare, ladies and gentlemen. Mass liquidation. And know your history, because history repeats. This is just like when they brought people into the ghetto and then start moving them towards the camps and the like. And here, here's video of the mass liquidation of entire blocks, entire huge, high rises and the like. And the big cities are going to get it the worst. I mean, Sodom and Gomorrah here is going to burn. And, they may, want to make some kind of claim to fame about this virus in terms of, being some sort of new world order, project, which it most certainly is. But at the end of the day, it's basically the heathens and the sodomites that are going to, get this the worst. All the sheeple, they're just going to go bye-bye. And so at this stage, you don't really know, what to do, thank or hate this new world order. But in any case, it's going to happen, guaranteed, in days, not weeks. And undoubtedly, the outbreak has already begun in just about every major city, mid-sized city in America. And since the incubation, can take a while, and before people actually go ICU, it can take 3 to 4 weeks. We're not going to see the worst of it until it's, way, way too late. And, that's probably going to be, in a month from now. Can't imagine what it's going to be like in a month from now, in a week from now, in a year from now. But things are going to change hardcore. Your world was never going to be the same thanks to this administration and this new world order and all of these devil-worshipping cult members out there. Once again, they've proven, their worth. They've brought doom to our society. And if you want this to stop, you got to take out the trash. You got to take out the bad guys. And it's not going to stop with the goon squads, but, it can start there. Start out there with the goon squads, take down the death towers, and then start, moving up the chain. But what we're learning here is that EMF radiation basically zaps your white blood cells. It makes you immunosuppressant. There's been decades worth of research on that, so you can check that out for yourself. EMF, static electric fields, white blood cells, etc., etc. But all of the EMF, the Wi-Fi, and the like, is going to make you more susceptible to this virus, to every virus. And so that's another thing, you want to ditch the Wi-Fi, you want to turn it off, you want to make sure that it's off and get a meter, because undoubtedly they're going to be doing, some sneaky stuff, trying to zap you even when you think it's off. You might think your computer's in airplane mode, you might think your tablet's in airplane mode, you might think your router is in airplane mode, if you will. But they may still be zapping you. The printers, all of the smart gadgets. I mean, you're probably getting a huge dose right now, and you want to make sure that you're in a, natural environment. You want to rebuild your immune system while you still have a chance. That should be part of your, prepping right now, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just joining us, massive news. The stock market is completely tanked. This is just the beginning, but we can already see that they're playing with the numbers, trying to float it at the levels that it is. But it's the mass exodus. Everybody wants to get out of this market right now. And every economy, every market, every sector is going to be impacted, from tourism, air industry, tech. They can't keep the factories open. As soon as they start letting people back to work, people are getting infected. I mean, it's just like it keeps flaring up, right? Because you got so many stealth cases out there, it just flares up. It's going to keep perpetually shutting down industries, businesses. It's going to, cut all sorts of supply chains. It's going to basically bring down this entire beast system. They're going to cut off the power. You're going to get all sorts of crazy, Hollywood movie-like scenarios in real life that, basically the whole, market system as we know it is about to have a heart attack and flatline. And it won't be long before we're seeing huge drops like never seen before. And we'll probably drop below, what it was when Trump came into office, 4 years ago, which was, between 13 and 17,000. This thing could go down below 10,000, down below to even like the depression levels, because people are going to see that none of these corporations are able to survive for the most part. They're not able to keep employees in, and there's going to be just years worth of lag time before they can get the robots to replace the human workers, and that process has already begun. Those factories that have automated, they're going to be okay. The Tesla, let's plug your ass into a brain chip factories will be okay because they're fully automated. They're adapted for this crisis, just like all of the superstars living on an island. They're adapted for this crisis. But the regular people, they're going to end up like this or worse. And now we're learning the big news. Wuhan to quarantine all cured coronavirus patients for 14 days after they test positive again. Recovered and discharged people were sent to a designated center for another 14-day quarantine. And who knows, those quote-unquote cured people may have already died, and they're just saying they're cured. But at this stage, we're getting a lot of reports of relapses of people that have been infected, and they're able to infect again once they relapse. Now, they may not relapse into full SARS mode, but we don't know exactly what the long-term, effects are going to be from this virus. What we do know is that this virus attacks like internal Ebola, and it starts going through the circulatory system. It starts attacking the liver, the kidneys, massive damage there, and the immune system. And of course, the origins of this virus is really kind of what kicked off this investigation for a lot of people. We're seeing that it was an HIV hybrid chimera strain in the genotypes, in the sequences that were submitted to GeneBank and the like. And they're seeing the spike protein have 4 different inserts of HIV, which is standard practice in the labs that are trying to, play with viruses. They love mixing, real infectious diseases with HIV to see what happens, which drugs work and don't work and the like. It's standard practice. We talked about those white papers, those scientific documents in the video archives. Just go through the titles, and, we've done 1 or 2 shows a day since this all kicked off. And if you're just catching up to what's going on, start on day 1 of this outbreak, when we called this out for what it was based on its location. This happened in the center of a country, in the major of a huge city, and it wasn't like some kind of emerging virus from the jungle. This thing got to the big city, somehow. And what we found out was that 300 yards away from this quote-unquote seafood market is their CDC, and in that town they've got a military-grade bioweapons research lab working on this exact kind of virus. In fact, both labs in Wuhan were working on this exact type of virus, and we're hearing all sorts of interesting stories about how it may have gone from the lab into the market. You know what I mean? But given the response of this of their administration to this outbreak day 1, and they just how they just turned their whole country into like an incubator, how they booted up this virus to infect the world, you can't help but think that this was some kind of preemptive attack, and you have to wonder what's coming next. And the EMP is coming next. That's going to be the 2-day blackout, and who knows what happens after that. Ladies and gentlemen, World War III, or do we stabilize? Is there a happy ending? Do they finally, come to agreement and say it was some kind of misunderstanding? We unleashed the virus just before the trade agreement. We thought it was, it was going that way, or, they'll come up with some kind of story like that. Check out our Twitter, Stranger Than Fiction News, for the latest updates. We're learning about, outbreaks and new outbreaks in countries, new countries every day. And I think the most troubling news that we've heard today, not only the numbers that are coming in from Italy and South Korea, but we've got servicemen and women now infected in South Korea, and we're hearing about quite a few numbers there. We're learning that the prime minister in Slovakia has been hospitalized due to this virus that looks critical. And so you really have to wonder, this is a nice one, no one knows until everyone knows. from Contagion. Remember that scene? But you just have to wonder how infected is command and control at this stage. And, I think time will tell. But in theory, I mean, this could be like a dead man switch in a sense, and everybody's been infected, and there's only so much time before, everybody starts dropping dead. And so who knows where this situation will go, ladies and gentlemen. Prime Minister of Slovakia infected, and 11 soldiers so far, 7,700 people in quarantine. It's melting down hardcore. And this was an interesting kind of clip, and a mayor of an Italian town under lockdown was interviewed. The reporter noticed symptoms and asked if he'd been tested, and the mayor says, they've run out of test kits. And they've done this on purpose. They've only released, just a few of them. But this is such a novel virus, and it's a weapon that was made to circumvent detection. So it's no surprise that, their standard PCR tests for coronavirus aren't working. But, undoubtedly this is part of the plan. This is kind of built in and the like. And, we're seeing South Korea basically clear, 3,000 people a day with their tests. And the CDC in America can barely do 20 or 40 on some days based on their statistics. So there's, they're just slowing everything down, playing dumb, like we don't know what's going on. We think it might go pandemic, but, So, but we've talked about this in previous broadcasts, how in their last press conference they were talking about, schools and businesses will close. So we recommend pulling your kids out of school right now. We've got videos of kids being piled into body bags over there in China. This kills everyone. And, if your kids get infected, then, that becomes, a very difficult situation. Then everybody gets infected. So pull your kids out of school. It's time to go on vacation and start preparing. This is going to be an adventure. It's important to keep everybody's morale high and make it fun as you can, like a movie in a sense. And, expect people to crack a little bit under the stress and just, crack the whip back and, put them back in place. You gotta keep everything steady the best you can while this starts melting down. And obviously a lot of people are just gonna freak out. They're gonna stay in denial. They're gonna jump off buildings. This, that, and the other. Look, the lemmings are gonna do what the lemmings are gonna do. But if you're out there destined to be a survivor, then you need to prepare and start using all of the skills that you have towards surviving. And everything that you've gone through in life has prepared you for what you're about to face right now. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that we live in a constructed reality, that this whole world was created. It's right there in the DNA. It's a programming language, ladies and gentlemen. And so, keep the faith, persevere till the very end, ladies and gentlemen. And, you've been promised a promotion. You just got to do your job. And your job description is right there in the Bible. We'll leave it there for this broadcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, you are the result.